Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Art of the Bay Sessions. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button to catch future interviews. Thanks again and enjoy the show.
And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Art of the Bay Sessions. Today, we are joined by our good buddy, CJ. How's it going, dude?
Good. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, man.
Trust me, he's like waving right now, so like it's like the most animated hand wave I've ever
seen in my life.
Oh man, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Happy Friday.
Yeah, like we were just talking about this before we started recording, where I've tried to do interviews before, like during the week, and it's always that either I'm stressing out of trying to finish something for work, or like whoever I'm interviewing is trying to wrap up like either stuff for work or for like their own like personal stuff, and it never matches up. But usually at the end of the week is like better for everybody, you know?
Right, man. Shoulders are relaxed.
Yeah. You got like that weekend massage ready to go at that. Oh man. Yeah. Thanks again for joining me on this interview. And usually we kind of start off just to kind of get to know you a little bit more. So I usually ask the first question is like, you know, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself and a brief history of your like timeline, like your art career. It doesn't have to be your like art career. It could be like your entire career, but I usually try to give it as an open question at that point.
Sure, man. Oh boy. So my art, professionally, I started in, I think it's 96 or 97.
Mm-hmm.
At a company called Blam.
Oh, okay.
Video game studio. They were working on it was like an RPG for the PlayStation. Before that, I was just a bagger at Safeway right there at the marina.
Oh.
And because my good friend, her brother was a owner of the company, she asked if they would interview me. And I went there, dude. I had zero experience. I knew nothing about portfolios or anything like that.
Wow. Yeah.
All I did know was games, and I loved video games, and I understood that language.
Yeah.
And so that, and the good luck that, my friend's sister, that the boss was a brother of my friend.
Yeah.
That got me in, and from there, man, that was it. I just learned as much as I could on the job. Then after Blam, sorry, my memory is so foggy of it. So it's like, it all seems like a dream.
It is almost like a good 30 years back. So it's
yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's like, oh my God, it's been that long.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my start. And from there, I went to, what was the second company? Z-Access.
Uh-huh.
And those guys were working on like, I think it was like Dave Mirra.
Oh, wow.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was that's the biking game, right? Do you remember that one?
It was like during the time when like Tony Hawk and like all these other extreme sports games came out at the same time. So I think you're right.
Yeah. Or maybe, no, excuse me. It was Thrasher. It was Thrasher.
Oh, Thrasher. Yeah.
Because it was, they were trying to go after that market.
Mm-hmm.
So stayed there for a little bit. And then from there, I went to a company called Digital Eclipse. Desi.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I worked. That's when, I met a lot of great people there too. Arvin was there.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Ray Costco and my buddy Vaughn.
Oh, nice.
Boss, yeah. And from there, through Vaughn, I would start hanging out more at the studio they was at with Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my world would change completely, man, because that studio just had powerhouses, dude. It was where was it at? I think it was near the Stud in San Francisco, the first Maverick studio. But I started hanging around there more and started getting some gigs there through them. And I did that for a few years. And after that, I went to Zynga.
Mm-hmm.
From there, after Zynga, I was there for like 5, close to 6 years maybe, which is insane.
Yeah.
I never realized, it's impressive to stay at a company for 2 years, in my opinion.
Right.
So after that, I went to SGN, which would later on become Jam City.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then, boom, landed at Osmo.
Yeah. It's I forgot about because now I have a couple of buddies who still work at Jam City, and I was trying to remember like what it used to be called because I knew they fairly changed like recently changed it, right? Like 2 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. It was that was it. 'Cause, it was SGN. Yeah, you're right. It feels like it was a lot longer.
Right.
Time is weird.
I guess like these rebranding people know what they're doing, right?
Okay. Well, I remember when they changed, I was like, "What? This is weird." And now I cannot think of it not as Jam City, right? I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I was so used to SGN."
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that like back in the day you didn't have like all these things ready, like how the industry standard now is to have like like a digital portfolio and everything. How did that kind of like work in that favor? Like how did you go about like showing them that you can actually like do the job and like handle those responsibilities?
So, dude, I mean, for me, I'm just like the luckiest person on earth.
Yeah.
Straight up, man. Like, I've been really blessed with tremendous amounts of people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's no joke. Like, I've always been creative as a kid, and I've always drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always loved video games and entertainment and art. It's the only thing that really made sense to me.
Yeah.
And I was never groomed to go into the business. Like, you know, my family, we couldn't afford a school or anything. We didn't even know those things existed, like an art school.
Right.
You know, I was gonna probably the best. You know, I'd be lucky if I would have just became like, a checker at Safeway at that point, which would have been fine with me. But again, like I got lucky with people, and they saw that I could draw or whatever, and they got me into the door.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, I should say before that, my buddy, one of the first artists that I would meet that had like his stuff really put together, his name was Matt Roberto.
Oh, okay.
The night before the interview that I had with Blam, he told me, dude, you could use my portfolio. So he emptied out his work, gave me his portfolio. Cause I was going to go in there with a peachy folder.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. He was like, what is this? And he's like, no, this is how you have a portfolio. So he gave me his empty portfolio leather case. We put images. He helped me pick a bunch of stuff that he thought was my strongest work. And then that was it. I went in there. So at least I didn't look like a complete moron when I went in there.
Yeah.
But definitely, my art wasn't ready. What got me the job was, the fact that, it was a favor for a friend, but mostly that I could talk game language.
Right.
From what I understanding, the owner of the company was Geronimo Barrera and Jay Min.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely great guys, man. They gave me a shot. And they explained to me that it was my knowledge of games that put me over the top over a lot of the other artists. Because the other artists had chops, but they didn't understand like what a boss was, or how to level up, chainmail or something like that. There's a language of these things.
Yeah.
And I love games, and that studio was all about like you had to love games, man.
Right.
For me, that was a rarity in my experience.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how like that happened a lot during like the 90s and even like early 2000s, where since the technology and all these companies were starting up at the same time, at that point like there was like no dedicated colleges or schools for like those type of like jobs, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, it wasn't as popular, right? So like now, man, if a kid says, "Oh yeah, I want to be an artist," their parents are like, "Yeah, you could go probably work in movies and stuff," and they'll be very supportive.
Right.
But when I was younger, I think I was like, "Oh, what are you gonna waste your time on that?" It's like, go be a doctor or something, right? Which is it's fair, but yeah.
Yeah. No, it's weird because the same thing for me and my other buddy Shilong, that when we went to because we went to the Art Institute of San Francisco, and I think it was only probably the second year that they introduced the whole game art and design degree itself. And that was back in 2003. So it's like before all that, like, there weren't that many like art schools or schools in general that were teaching stuff like that. So it's just crazy, like how you just said, like you pretty much had to make those connections by just like friend of a friend of a friend or anything, and just kind of smarten yourself up to like what like the industry was about at that point?
Like pure luck, dude. Like I got lucky, and I got lucky that it was at that company too, Blam, because that's where I met a bunch of people that would put me on the path, dude. Like that would be my first ever interaction with an art director, man. It was Vince Castillo. I saw that dude's work, man, and I was just blown away. I've never met anybody that had, because I didn't hang around like artists growing up like that. Guys that like, this guy used watercolor, pencils and stuff, and they showed me their concept art book. And it looked like a finished video game, like, you know, because I used to love like the Zelda books and all the instruction manual art, you know?
Yeah.
And this was legit. And so I learned a lot under him. And then at the same company, I would also meet my good buddy Deron Anderson and Daryl Starr. They were two engineers / designers, and they were just like you know, fierce gamers and artists. Yeah. You know, and they helped put me on a path. It was great to be around like people that had passion.
Yeah. It's always that thing, and I think you can pretty much agree to it. It's like when you're growing up and have like a strong interest, like in your case, like with art and gaming, when you're not around that circle, you just kind of feel like, it's weird that like it's only me that likes this stuff. But then when you get older and like you meet, as people said, like their tribe, so to speak, like when they meet like the tribe of people who love the same things that you do, it really is like that, like magic that you feel like super energized by like that energy around you.
You feed off of one another, man. And I've never had that ever. You know, I mean, growing up, you know, there's always like an artist in class, you know, some guy that could draw and stuff like that. But there was no riffing. Like, it's weird.
Right.
They weren't they were good, but they weren't like deep into it. I was like deep into it. I just loved everything that was like, cartoons, movies, commercials, art. And this would be the first time that I'd be exposed to people in such a, like you said, a tribe, man.
That's awesome, man. I was looking at your LinkedIn earlier just to kind of see like what you had worked on, and dude, this is like legit like jealousy when it comes to me on my end when it comes to the games and projects that you worked on. So I saw that you had like stuff from the PlayStation era with like Monkey Hero. Then you had like Super Boom Tread Troopers from Dreamcast. And then you got to work on some GBA stuff with like Rayman Advance. So like how was it back then where like obviously like these studios are the same thing where like they don't have like all this like technology for like, or I should say they don't have the experience dealing with this new technology when it comes to like early 3D games like on the PlayStation and Dreamcast. So like how was it like working in that environment of just like trying to produce art for such a new wave of technology at that point?
Oh, I mean, like with the Blam one, that one was, since that was my first time, I was mostly just 2D. I was mostly like on the outside. It was just like concept art. Yeah. So it was all magical to me, you know. Like the 3D guys, what they were doing, I couldn't even comprehend it.
Right.
Until now. Now looking back, I remember looking over the 3D guys, and I can totally understand what they were. I was like, oh shit,
yeah.
You were texturing and you were doing this and that. But at the time, it was like wizardry.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, you know, it all looked crazy to me at the time. So I don't know if it was for them, but I know for me it was.
Yeah.
And then later on, like with the Super Boom Tread Troopers, I mean, that was my buddy Deron, and Deron's been doing like 3D stuff for the longest time already. So it wasn't that big of a leap.
Right.
You know? And then progressively, it never gets easier though. That's what's funny. It's always complicated.
Yeah.
Especially with, I find that the more powerful the systems get, there's just, you think it gets easier, but there's always some level of complexity.
Right.
To it, you know, like someone wants to push something in a certain way.
That's what I find kind of interesting now that you said that, is because it's kind of like that old mentality of like when you're given something like minor or not the same amount of like tools, you find like a workaround to like make it work. So I guess it's the same way there, where like when you have too many tools when it comes to like all these advanced like gaming, like modern gaming systems like the PS5 that can do like limitless stuff, now you kind of like have like a new set of problems at that point, which is crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, maybe it's easy. I don't know. I'm going to say it's probably not.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, I mean, that's what I love about the old games so much is that they were so limited, so it forced them to be so creative, man.
Yeah.
And like the stuff that was coming out, like I can still play it and watch it to this day and just be like, wow, I'm floored.
Yeah.
Like I guess the same thing goes with film too, man. Like,
Oh, that's true.
you know, with anything, I think I love limitations. I embrace them. Like, you know, give me limitations and let's see what I can give you with those limitations. You know, it's always
Right.
It's fun.
No, that's a good point. I was just talking to another friend about this with like comparing like the original Blade Runner and the most recent one, and like visually they're both amazing in different ways because of that same thing of the limitations in each era. So you have one that's just using like legit practical effects to achieve that vision, and then you have like more modern like technology that kind of gives you like the updated version of like what they were trying to do back in the day.
Yeah. I know, and then I don't know, maybe it's because I'm old. I like the old practical stuff, man. There's something about it. I don't know. I feel that that as beautiful as the new stuff is, sometimes it just lacks, and that's just my opinion,
right.
You know? Some do it better than others, but you know, the old stuff, I don't know. It's just timeless to me. I could watch it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't get old.
I definitely agree. I think that's why no matter what people say, like the original Jurassic Park is my favorite because it's like a really perfect idea of like having that hybrid of like using practical and using like technology for the future, but having like that right blend, like right in the middle.
It's the mix, right?
Yeah.
Well, is it just like it's the Coen brothers, right? That did "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou"?
Oh yeah.
They, the way they did it, dude. I mean, loved it. They used it in such a way where I'm like, all right, that's fantastic. Where it's not punching me in the face, and I really couldn't tell until after I saw a lot of the making of it. I'm like, oh my god, that was CG.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. My friend was recommend me to watch Parasite. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's interesting because like a lot of that just seems like they just use regular cinematography, and then when you see like the behind the scenes stuff of what they actually CG'd, you would have never known like that some of that stuff was like CG. It's really crazy.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I think it was Splice. I'm sorry. That's where my mind is at. Yeah. Oh my god, there was CG in that.
There, if you, I would recommend check out like YouTube, like the behind the scenes stuff. You'll be blown away of what's been like CG'd, and it's just like because I didn't know until like I watched the extra stuff afterwards, and I was like, wow, that's
amazing. Cool, man. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'll check that out. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's so crazy. Which kind of leads into my my next question here, where like, yeah, with everything that we've been kind of talking about already, like. What were some of your like inspirations growing up? And same thing, like it doesn't have to be like related to art, but it could just be anything that's like influenced you with your projects or just like anything in your life.
Oh man, dude, it's just everything. I think I am so thankful for the era that I was born in. I love the 70s. I caught, being born in 74, I caught the tail end of a lot of things from the 60s and even the 50s because like TV's, I was still watching like Petticoat Junction on TV and like Don Knotts, a kid my age, technically shouldn't know who the hell Don Knotts is. He's like, he's old. But I was watching all these shows and I don't know, it just exposed me to a lot of things, I think. Plus like there wasn't like a dedicated Cartoon Network.
Oh, that's right.
So I would have to like, watch MASH or a bunch of other TV shows, and I don't know. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Everything was just feeding me creativity. I would find everything from cereal boxes to commercials to I don't know. I just really loved creativity as a whole. Entertainment, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to what we were just talking about, how like back in the day, it's not like you can just find anything on demand like now, like every streaming thing, like you can literally pick out what you want at anytime that you want to watch it. Back then, it was literally like whatever was on rotation on TV.
Yeah, but you had a window for cartoons was Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, by 12 or 11, that's it. It's a wrap. Then you had to go outside or go play with toys or do whatever.
Right.
But, there was always that morning ritual. It was like, for me, that was my church, cartoons. Yeah. But then after that, it was just like, you'd have to like either watch whatever was on TV or read a book or do something else.
Yeah.
But TV was great back then, in my opinion. It was really solid stuff.
Yeah.
From there, like, is that generally what kind of gave you like that inspiration to work on like the different projects that you're making now with when you kind of do like your series of either like the Karate Kid series, the Knight Rider, the Goonies, and then most recently the Star Wars series? Like, is that pretty much where all that inspiration kind of comes from at that point?
Yeah, so those are it's a combination of those like being love letters to it's my thank you to these things that they really saved my life, man, because if it wasn't for that, I could have gone in numerous terrible directions,
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in San Francisco at that time. It's a different San Francisco. And it kept me out of trouble, I think, the fact that I was such a nerd.
Yeah.
I'd much rather stay at home and do crazy things like that. So that's like the Karate Kid and Bionic Man and all those things, just like a thank you to all those things.
Right.
And also, it's like I've never been big on fan art. Not making it. I never really enjoyed making it. I always enjoyed making my own crazy characters, right? But that became a little bit more challenging once I had a full time, because I'm spending so much creative energy on the job. I don't want to do original stuff after work because I'm tired. But I found that if I take something that already exists, like an IP, it kind of takes care of a lot of other things. I don't have the character design because it's already there. Like Han Solo is already Han Solo.
Right.
So all I could do is add my own flavor to it, and it kind of relieves that pressure of having to come up with something new,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a technique, I guess.
Yeah. That's really cool. I never thought about that. That's an interesting way of doing it, because I've talked to so many artists throughout the years that have been burnt out by like trying to like juggle that balance of doing art at work and then trying to do something at home, that they're just burned out by that point, that there's no energy, there's no creative energy to do anything. But I never thought about doing it in that format, which is really cool.
Oh, right. Yeah, man. It's just something I just stumbled upon it. Because I love doing crazy things. I love anime, dude, and like Japanese games, and they're always doing these wild stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And so I would do it constantly, but it's tough, man, because like I devote a lot of my my creative thinking to whatever project I'm on. It doesn't matter who it's for or what the game is. I go in all in. And so at the end of the day, I'm just like, ugh, I just want to vomit. I'm like, really? I don't want to think about any more creative stuff.
Right.
Not to say that it's not creative to do fan art. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that it removes one component, of having to come up with something.
Yeah.
So then it's fun, though, because then with the fan art stuff, you find a way to inject something probably new that series doesn't have, or trying to, somehow put your voice into it. That's what I was trying to do with the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. No, I think just like some of the ones that you were doing last year or the year before, I can't remember, when you were doing the Knight Rider one, like, dude, like the first time I saw those, I legit thought that you were like working like with the studio to like reboot it. That's like how convincing they look, where I was just like, dude, I'm totally down to watch like this new modern version of like Knight Rider. So like, I think, dude, you're totally knocking out of the park with these tributes.
Thank you very much, dude. Well, I love pitching stuff, dude. That is where I am happiest, pitching stuff, and so whenever I create something, I do like to pitch it as if it were going to be real.
Right.
I think it helps me with the creative part. Like, it's hard as hell, but it helps me, like come up with like ideas and stuff. It's like, all right, I just imagine myself pitching this to something or whatever.
Yeah,
and then the result just kind of feels like something that's ready or done, right? I hope that's my goal.
Yeah, because I think that's the difference between like when people try to do that with like real IPs, when they try to reboot them, that you can definitely tell that it's just in there for like a cash grab to like revive like an IP that's just been sitting on their shelf and they don't know what to do with it. They'll just reboot it just to like get some money out of it. But in your case, you're legit doing it out of like passion, and like it shows. And that's like the difference between that and like in any of the like modern Charlie's Angels remake that no one cares about, because like it doesn't have any passion behind it,
Thanks man, I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, I mean, I don't like doing something that's not worth my it's time and also my love, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have to love it. I don't care how it's received. If no one likes it, that's cool, but as long as I gave it my all, that's all I can do, man.
Yeah.
And definitely, like, the Bionic Man and the Knight Rider is something I want to see it.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's rare that I feel good about the stuff that I make, and those are when I was like, man, am I crazy, or is this a good idea?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that you also get it too from like your friends and like even people who comment on like the posts that like, yeah, I would love to see this. Like, it's just like, it's one of those things that like it's already like a good idea, and then on top of that, when you kind of give it that visual style of like what a modern remake would look like, I'm totally down to watch it.
That's it. I mean, that makes my day, man. Anytime someone, when you, like you said, when you find someone out there in the wilderness that's thinking like the way you're thinking, you're like, oh, that's it. My job is done. Whether it's picked up or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And also, I knew that Mark Wahlberg they were going to make a movie or something about that. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, I got to get this idea out before that movie comes out, because it might ruin it.
Yeah. Like, so going into that more, like, how long does it like take you to, like, when you think of like the next one that you kind of want to like work on, do you kind of like plan them all out? Like, do you plan out like the individual ones that you want to work on as a collective, or is it just more like as you make one, then you come up with like the other one? Like, for example, like the Star Wars one, for example, do you kind of lay out like, okay, I'm going to make one based on Leia, then Vader, and then Chewie? Or is it more just like as you're working on one, then you come up with an idea for the next one?
So because I'm fortunate enough to have a full time, no, I schedule everything out, dude, to the T.
Yeah.
There's just, I couldn't freeform it. And even if I could, I don't know if I would. I love scheduling everything out. It makes life a lot easier, and it holds your butt to the fire.
Yeah.
And it's nice to check off, and it helps with my creative part, man, because as you're writing down your schedule, you kind of start making what I like to call is my inventory.
Right.
Like, I'll say, okay, I know what I want. I want, let's say, in this case, we'll talk about Star Wars stuff. I want Han Solo, Leia, Luke, Chewie, Vader, Stormtroopers, blah, blah, blah. Boom. So now I have my asset list.
Right.
And from there, I can go on and say, what can I do with these characters? What shots do I want to do? And then I just break all that down. And then by the end of it, you'll just have this probably a horrible, massive list. But you can check off stuff, right? And then you have to start making decisions. You got to start acting like a producer and be like, no, okay, I'm going to have to ditch this. And it's all dependent on what your time frame is,
Right.
Like in the Star Wars stuff, I believe I told you about it, right? While I was taking vacation.
Yeah.
So like in this case, I knew I had 2 weeks of complete, down me time. I'm going to take vacation. I'm going to work.
Right.
So everything worked around that, and that's why I couldn't get the droids out. they had to be sacrificed.
Yeah. So at that point, do you like, I know I was talking to other other artists where like it's hard for them to kind of like know when to like wrap something up. But in your case, like with this one where you kind of like have everything mapped out, do you basically just give yourself a deadline of like, okay, the Luke one, no matter what, I'm just going to finish it in a day? Or do you kind of give yourself like any wiggle room, like where you're like, oh, I actually want to like polish it up a little bit more or something like that?
So, that's what the scheduling's for, is to allow polish, right? So I say, come hell to high water, by this date, this will be done. And it's just like work. Like, I don't, that's why I work. I don't mess around, dude. Like, sometimes good enough is just good enough, because it's either good enough or nothing. I'll take good enough.
Yeah.
And like these, like the Star Wars, I'm so happy that they were received so well. But I know that they're nowhere near the level they should be. But again, it's time, and it was either me showing what I have right now or showing nothing. I'll choose to show something. Right. And then either way, it's a learning experience, so it's not a loss, Yeah. Because, I learned a lot from doing those, man. It's crazy. Yeah. But definitely, I give myself a deadline for each one, and I move on. I get them to a certain point. I'm like, all right, screw it, done. Yeah. And it helps because it relieves pressure. Because now whether you're completely happy with it or not, you have something. And now I can concentrate on the next one. And what ended up happening is maybe the next one goes faster, and I'm like, cool, I could go back. I have some time, and I can fix whatever I don't like about the last one. It's like that. But if I spend my whole time trying to perfect just one, then I'm not going to have crap to show. Well, I'm sorry if I'm cursing too.
Oh no, it's like I say, if anyone finds this podcast, like they're going to get every raw moment. So it's fine.
Awesome. Yay. I'm a pirate at heart.
The thing I always tell people, it's like, it's not what did I say last time?
This is not a family-friendly show, but it's
also like not an explicit show. So it's literally like you can do whatever you want. Kind of.
Cool. Well, I'm keeping it clean so far. Keep it clean. Yeah. Kitties.
So I kind of want to go back a little bit where when you were kind of like starting off with just kind of finding like your voice, like when you came to like making your artwork and everything. Clearly, when I see your stuff, I can definitely tell like it's like something done by you. Like I can look at something and be like, well, I know that's like Star Wars, but I know that's like a CJ piece. I think that's the hardest thing that I've noticed, even for myself, really, like when it comes to like finding your own style and like people being able to recognize it. How did you go about doing that in a way where like it was more on a conscious or subconscious level of like finding out that you had a style, or is it something like that just kind of like organically happened, or did you actually like focus on figure out a style?
It's weird, man. I guess it just happened organically, but I also kept it in mind. So before I even was in the working professionally, getting paid for this, I would just, like I said, I would just draw and do a bunch of stuff on my own and do characters, and I would build toys out of cardboard, dude. Yeah. And as a teenager, I would do comics of all my buddies, man. All my little, the San Francisco street kids that we all hung out together. Yeah. And it was one of my buddies, his name is Jesus Alvarez, man. He was probably one of the original guys that put me on a path where he told me, this was like, he didn't realize he was giving me art direction either. He was just telling me, he was just like, it's cool that you're doing these comics, but man, it seems like, he liked stuff that I was doing earlier because it was more original. And I'll never forget, he told me, he's like, you should hang on to your own voice and try to find it. Because I was trying to mimic a lot of Mega Man stuff because I love Mega Man. Right. And I'll never forget that he told me that, dude. And from there on, I guess it was just like a seed planted. And whenever I find that I was veering too much into the direction of something that's already done, I immediately stop and try to rethink it, And then it's just organic, I guess. But it was definitely... he planted those seeds, man. And then just the people that I would meet throughout would have the same advice.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I think it's similar with a lot of people that when you grow up in your life, you don't realize like what they're doing later on. Like in that role, it's kind of like a art producer, or even like a not a manager, but just like someone who's like your senior peer, and
like not even knowing it.
it's just like one of those things that when it's genuine feedback from people who are in your close circle of friends, like it really hits home that you really take that personal in a good way, you know?
Yeah, no, dude, and it's just good advice. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll get it right away, like, especially when you're young, man. Like, if you're the lucky young kids, I think get good advice right away. And like the slow fools like me, it takes a while to digest. You know, I digest my advice very slowly over time. But once I get it, I remember it, man. And he probably doesn't realize that, like, how much he's helped me, dude. And the same thing, like, throughout my entire life, I'll have those kind of moments. Right. Someone will say something, and I'll just be like, "Damn, you're right." And then I just think about it, and I was like, "Oh, I try to be mindful of it," you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
I think that's just kind of goes back to even like what we're doing at work. Like, I think you even said it today that you just love like the crew that we're currently working with, because it does kind of feel like that, where it's like everyone's just like together, and like there's no egos, or there's no anything, that everyone just collaboratively just like working together, and honestly like improving each other. And I really love like that camaraderie between us.
It's when you have it, man, you should try to hang on to it as long as you can. That's why I was always surprised, you know, at companies when they would break up good teams.
Yeah.
You know, and devil's advocate, I understand it, right? There's bottom line and this, but I also don't. Like, I wouldn't take parts from a Ferrari and put it in my Mustang. Both great cars, but those fucking parts don't belong together. And they don't work well.
Right? They're not meant to be put into each other.
Yeah, and so I'm like, it's just strange. So, but you know, but I also understand it. But I think when you have a good team and it's working, don't mess with it. Yeah, just let them continue to produce hits for you if that's what's going on. You know,
right.
Yeah, and it's like anything when people say like, oh, what's like business 101? Is it easier to like keep an existing customer or get like a new customer? Then like it's the same thing with how you just said, like, is it easier to like keep the same team and pump out like another hit, like if everyone's working well together, or try to like move everything around and shift pieces and like not even know if it's going to be like a successful A project, or B like a successful team, like by meshing these new people together? Like,
exactly. I mean, I understand how they think, but yeah, because it's a team. Usually it's not just a superstar, right? It's like, well, I'm going to take this guy, he's really good at this, and that guy, and put him on, or that person, and spread them out. I'm like, no, usually it's because there's a team that's making something, you know. And so I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Cool. So like I think I know the answer to this one, but I figure I ask it anyway. So what are some of your other hobbies, like when you're not either doing art stuff for work or your own personal like art projects? Like what else kind of like motivates you, or not even motivates you, but just like casually for fun?
Oh man, I mean, I get it. That's a tough one. Like, I don't know. It's always work related, I guess. That's why I just love. Yeah, I just love working out ideas, man. That's it. Even if I'm not working on stuff for, like, you know, for work, like for my rent, the stuff that I do for money, then I'm always just concentrating on what's the next thing, you know?
Right.
It's like there's all these things in my mind that I desperately want to get out. This is going to sound morbid, but it's the truth. Like, before I die, I don't want to have these ideas with me. I want them all out. You know, that's the thing. It's like the Star Wars, the Bionic Man, and a bunch of other stuff that I have planned. I don't want those things with me. I want them out. Right. Go away.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what kind of brings me joy, you know, and anything that helps infuse that. And then that could be a number of things, you know, going out to see a movie or
right.
Plays. I love plays, operas and stuff like that. I really do. I dig those. Just like set designs and shit like that.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I think I only started getting into like theater and plays within the last 4 to 5 years, because before then it was just either a thing that like, oh, like it, like I just had like an ignorant like mindset of like, oh, it's not for me, because like all they're doing is just like dancing or singing and stuff like that. So it's like it wasn't like something I appreciated at the time. But then finally, when like I like opened up like my mind a bit more and actually like went to go see one, then I was just hooked, because I at that point I went to go see like maybe 2 more, and then after that I became like a member of like the San Francisco like theater. Yeah, so it's the same thing where it's like there's so much creativity in every aspect, and just like how you said, it's like every person on like that crew is essential, like when it comes to like the stage design, the sound engineers, like the musicians, the set design, everybody. It's just like everybody's like a rock star. That's why those shows like are amazing and such high production, you know.
It's funny because it's like from a distance it looks like just one long string, right? When you get closer, it's all these little strings together and working as one giant string, man. And yeah, I was the same way with you. Like as a younger kid, I would have been like, "Oh, that's for rich people or something nonsense." But it turns out that I did. I mean, I've always liked that because I mean, Looney Tunes. They always play opera and classic stuff, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny how perception, right?
Yeah.
It's no different from like how you said like a TV show or movies, because it's the same thing. They have to like plan everything from start to finish, and like the production level is the same thing. And then when you give it like that ultimate factor of that it has to be done live, like that's insane.
I feel nervous for them whenever I see those. Like,
right.
I saw the Nutcracker for the first time was like maybe a year before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just blown away. I was like, man, I can't believe it took me this long to see this show. This stuff that was happening. I was like, good Lord, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm the same way where like I'm barely catching up to like what the hits were like 20 years ago. So I just caught like The Lion King for the first time, and that's been on Broadway for like 20 plus years or whatever. And like now it's like, I know it's based off the Lion King from the 90s, but still it's like the way that they just like perform that, and just like same thing. It's kind of similar to how you do the tributes, because it's like you have like this known property of The Lion King being this classic animated film, but then they did it in their own style by doing it more in like a traditional Broadway, and just like the masks and all these different like props and everything. It's just like it's like a familiar story, but like everything art wise is like completely different, and that's why I think I really love that one too.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know who they got to direct the art and the production design for that. They just went nuts. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And because I remember hearing about when they were doing it, and it sounded silly to me. I was like, what?
Like, how are you going to do this? Yeah.
And then I saw it, I was like, oh, I need to just shut up and never speak again, and just wait until I see something.
Right.
But yeah, the thing was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Like, what are like, let's say, like top 5 or top 10 like of your favorite like games, or I guess as a child, or just like overall, like what are some of your like top video games of all time?
So man, that is a tough. That's a tough question, because it's for different reasons. But I'll say, so I will give you my top 5, and they each have a reason, even though I have like top 100.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. So for sure it has to be Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Mega Man, it was one of the first ones that it was teaching character design to me in such a way.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And level design. Like with that one, I instantly understood level design. I'm not saying I am a level designer, and I'm not saying I can level design. What I'm saying is I understood that there was a formula and rules.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was like, oh, you got to do this, you beam to get that, and you use this. And also, I don't know anyone familiar with Mega Man, but Mega Man is his character, and he steals the powers of other robots, and it makes it easier to beat other robots.
Yeah.
But you could also, kill these robots without stealing those powers. So that used to fascinate me. I was like, wow, how did they, design that?
Yeah.
And then, the characters were just ridiculous. So that would be one of them for sure. And then, this one's tough. I would say Silhouette Mirage from Treasure.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that one's a hidden gem that not too many people probably have played, but that one's another one that taught me a lot about character design. Like I just wanted to be like those guys.
Yeah.
Like anyone who hasn't seen that game, you should YouTube it now because it's amazing.
I'll definitely put the footage up, like as sort of.
Oh right, yeah. You won't be disappointed, dude. Silhouette Mirage to this day, there are things like nothing comes close to it. I'm like, God, those characters are amazing. Treasure was just incredible.
Yeah.
And let's see, 3. What would be 3? I mean, Zelda for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because playing Zelda, man, I remember it felt like just being on an adventure.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a big Nintendo guy. You know, I was really like, I love the arcade the most.
Mm.
But I remember I was at my buddy's house and I started playing Zelda and I was just hooked. I was like, oh God, I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And so what do we have? That was 3?
Yeah.
Right.
Two more.
4, man. Trying to think. I don't want to leave a good one out.
Oh, you're gonna leave like.
I know, I'm gonna leave a bunch, dude. I mean, Phantasy Star Online. That was another one.
Interesting.
For the game, they just to this day, like if that game was still, I wish it was still out on the servers. I would play it to hell.
Yeah.
It was the Sega, the Sonic team, and they were the best, man. That game is just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's definitely up there. I listen to that soundtrack just all the time. It helps me think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then 5, who's going to be 5? It's got to be a shooter, man. I'm going to say Radiant Silvergun.
Nice.
And that's by staying Treasure. Treasure would be on the list a lot if it was my top 20. But yeah, man, Radiant Silvergun. That game, dude. Yeah. Like I was a big shooter guy, and that just punched me in the mouth.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. I know I was just like putting you on the spot, but it's just like it's interesting hearing everyone's kind of take on that whenever I ask them that question, because I always get maybe one overlap. In your case, it was Zelda, but it's awesome hearing like how everyone's inspired by different games from different generations, and even me, like even when I play some of the games that are like on the retro like consoles for everything, there's still so many hidden gems that came out during that era that I'm only learning about until today, which is crazy, you know?
Again, yeah, man. So like I tell my buddy this is like the era that I was born in, I was lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there for so much. It's crazy, dude. I mean, I was there for the Atari, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
You know, and so, I mean, a lot of these games that are obscure now, like I was playing, you know, and that a lot has to do with that Blam too. That's another thing I love about Blam, that those guys were doing import games before no one was doing that.
Yeah,
like we're playing games in Japanese, trying to figure out how they were doing stuff, you know, trying to reverse engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that got me into like, you know, seeking out all these games that were very hard to find.
Yeah.
With the like technology back in the day, how different is it like for you as an artist to like work on stuff like that versus like modern companies that like, whether it be Zynga or us at Osmo, like how's it been adapting to modern techniques and having less restrictions compared to the old days where it was the opposite, where you had more restrictions? So therefore, you have to kind of find creative ways of making the artwork itself.
Well, it's interesting. There's less restrictions, I guess. Like when I was doing stuff before, I mean, they had palette control. Like you had 16 colors to work with, and that's it. You better make magic with that, and that's why like there are a lot of fantastic pixel artists out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're just artists, period. But they could get busy with pixels, man.
Yeah.
You know, Square was one of those guys. Actually, one of my good buddies, Brian Flanagan, man, he's a pixel guy. That fool gets busy. He gets down. And so nowadays, though, you don't have that restriction. At least not the places that I've been at. You're just basically painting a picture almost.
Yeah.
With tons of colors, it doesn't matter. So in those regards, it's gotten a little bit easier, but it's also harder, if that makes sense, right? Because there's just more that you have to deal with now.
Yeah,
but you're not restricted to just a certain color palette and all that,
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's what I noticed too. Is just especially like at our time at Zynga, where there would be a couple artists that would just solely focus on just kind of mimicking what other companies are doing, but it may have not really been their choice. It was probably just like the direction that the company was doing, because like we were being competitive at that point of just like,
yeah. I mean, like following like what the trend was at that point.
I mean, that's another lesson that I learned. When you look at a game and you're like, oh, why do they do this? Why do they do that? There's probably a reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not who you think it is. Like, you're probably going to crap on the artist, but it could have been his manager. It could have been the GM, or it could have been an exec. There's a whole lot of reasons why something doesn't come out the way you think it does. Sometimes.
I think that's the thing that you'll only learn like once you're in like
any kind of
once you're in it and you're like, oh no, I can see the truth.
Yeah. Oh man,
it can be brutal.
You learn a lot of the magic tricks early on. You're like,
but it's a good thing too. It can dishearten some, but it's also liberating, because then you're like, all right, okay, now I know how things work. You can sort of just like, it's almost like taking this big weight off your shoulders. So it's like, all right, I just need to get this done. Because there are plenty of places where I worked at where I'll always do my best, but at the end of the day, you just have to get something out the damn door.
Yeah.
Because it's a business. And so I don't like to romanticize the job any more than I have to, right? Like, if like an exec comes in and says, hey, we need this green, I'm like, all right, you're the exec. I'll make it green. I'll tell them if it's a bad idea or not. I was like, well, but at the end of the day, you're going to do what they want. So that's it.
No, you're totally right about that. And I kind of had like a similar question. So thankfully you already brought that up for me, where from looking at your LinkedIn and just same thing, like interviewing other artists who are either storyboard artists or just like animators and everything, I've noticed like a trend more with like artists in general when they work at like in the tech industry, whether it be like for gaming or overall like just tech companies that need artists. I noticed that those positions are where, like how you said, like you and I were at Zynga for roughly 5 or 6 years, and that's like in modern days that's like unheard of, because you just have so many other positions like engineers, general managers, PMs that like just bounce around different companies after like a year or two. Why do you think that is, like when it comes to like artists, that they tend to be more satisfied with just staying at one location for like a longer period?
I mean, I can't. In my case, it was because like when I was at Zynga, I was expected to get laid off right away. Because I was used to that in the industry. It's like, well, games collapse in a month or a year, and then that's it. You're gone. So I was always working into the assumption that I wasn't going to be there that long. That I didn't get hung up on it. Like, oh, I'm going to be here forever. No, that never crossed my mind.
Right.
And I stayed there because I was lucky in one way that I was constantly on failed projects. I was always going from after I was on Cafe World, I was working on pitches for other like tiny tiger teams. And so as brutal as that is, it does make work interesting because I'm constantly doing new things,
Right.
As opposed to someone who has security on like a Farmville game, right? They could be on Farmville for years, man. And so I imagine that they would stay there because it's secure, that feeling.
Right.
Even though nothing's secure.
Yeah.
It's an illusion, dude. But I would assume that either artists stay because maybe they're genuinely happy, or it's like, because it's hard to find security, man, as an artist. At least it was when I was coming up. It's just like, it was a miracle to be at a company for a year, man. So if an artist is at a place for 2, I can see them staying. Be like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
No, like that's the trend I've noticed. Yeah, it's just like you see a lot of people just kind of being probably how you said, like just happy that they're staying on board. That like that's why you see like such passionate artwork come out of like different studios, because like they genuinely want to be there, and like you can tell that based on their amazing work. So it's just interesting seeing like that pattern with different positions at all these different companies.
I mean, I've been so far removed from it now that I don't even know. Before, it was, like when I was at Zynga, I could call it. I could be like, oh, this. It was easier for me to I guess read the tea leaves. Was that?
Yeah.
Now I don't know why anyone does what they do.
Yeah.
Or why they stay or why they don't.
For me, I'm like, well, the more I'm in the dark and don't know, it's probably better.
That's my policy now, man. Like, I don't need to know anything. Whatever happens.
Whenever someone like leaves like a top head either at our company or at Zynga, I'm just like, yeah, I didn't know who they were in the first place. It's like, it's not anything off my shoulders.
Well, it's funny because for a while, it's just like the thing where, right, where all the execs were leaving and stuff. And I'm like, it's like, yeah, just keep going. I'll just wait till they call my name, I guess.
Yeah.
But, for all the madness at Zynga, I mean, I'm still very lucky. Everyone treated me really well, man. Despite being on hectic projects and going through madness, the managers that I had, I mean, they would look out for me. Yeah. Which was, it was crazy to me. Like, I was very lucky. Yeah. Which is weird because I always tell me and my buddies joke about it. It's weird because we would be treated well, but they wouldn't listen to us. So it's like, what? It's weird, right? It's like, well, why are you keeping me around? I don't know if am I doing a good job or what. Yeah. But I think they did notice, like, if you're putting in time and doing hard work, they'll be like, all right, this guy's putting in the time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you just needed to like pitch, like, draw something for, and then they would have like took you too.
Who knows? Who knows, dude? I just remember that place was a mystery to me as to that stuff. I was like, oh my god, like, there was just a lull when nothing was coming out, and just thought everyone was pitching stuff, and I'm like, geez, just pick something already.
Yeah,
I felt bad for like people like Michelle or our other friend Anna.
Anna. Damn,
yeah. Like
I just remember those two specifically being on the same thing where like they would just be constantly jumping from different project to project because like they would work on it for like a whole year and then it wouldn't get greenlit, so they would just have to start that process over and over again, which is
insane.
It's funny, and a lot of the times the parts that I found frustrating, which is like you could tell when something's not going to make it.
Yeah,
at least I could. I was like. And those were the most frustrating projects because I'm like, we should just stop.
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be the artist that's telling you, this is not going to work. You guys have college degrees. You should be telling me it's not going to work and we should stop. But I don't know. I think people, either they have blind faith or they just don't want to admit that they need to stop, or I don't know. It could be who knows why, but a lot of times you could just tell when something wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Especially with games, man. With games, if your game is not entertaining without art, then it's not going to be entertaining with art.
Yeah.
But games are fun with just boxes and gray boxes.
Exactly.
That's the truth. Not to talk myself out of a job as an artist, but game design is very important because it's interactive medium. It's not like a movie where you have to sit through it and that's it. Games require you to take your time to finish something and invest.
Yeah, because how you just said, like, for gaming, the core fundamental is like a fun gameplay loop and experience, and then for like a good movie or TV show, like you can have the best visuals, but if the story isn't good, then like no one's gonna care. But when you have like the perfect mesh of like an amazing story or amazing gameplay with the art, then that's like where you have the classics.
Definitely art is it can accentuate, right? Or it's like spices, but it ain't the meal. It just ain't. You need that steak or vegan, whatever vegans eat, that meal. It has to be hearty.
Yeah. All right, so you're saying you're like the whipped cream of
whipped cream's important. But you just can't mask it. That's all I'm saying. It's like and that's very unique, I think, to games. Or like I think movies can get away with it too, because like with a movie, man, someone buys a ticket, they sit, and if it's not going their way, maybe they don't like it, but they sit through it and it's done. They'll eat their popcorn or they'll text through a movie. With a game, man, it requires them to invest. Like, it's not just about sitting in front of a game for an hour. It's like, they want 40 hours, maybe more from you. So, game design. That's the lesson here. Very important.
Perfect. And that will definitely segue into my last question I had here for you. So overall, like, I know you have like an amazing experience like throughout your whole career, but what would you say are probably some of either your favorite like projects or collaborative projects that you've worked on throughout the years? And like I said, it doesn't have to be like in like a number order. It's just anything that from the top of your head like have been some of your favorites.
Oh man, I mean, so definitely Blam. When I was at Blam, just because, I never experienced something like on that level again, where everybody was they were just like game nerds, man, and anime nerds. They were just culture nerds. That's what it was. That's a better word. And they were just invested in it, and we would, just like the president and the CEO of the company would come in with a stack of games and be like, all right, everybody stop. These are the new games from, Japan. Let's play them and beat them. And it wasn't out of laziness or just dicking around, It was like legit. Like, let's find out what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
And so that was one of them. And then Super Boom Tread Troopers was the other one where it was great because that was one of the very few times where, because my buddy Dayton Anderson was engineering and designing, we made a prototype. And so we were playing his game. He developed it with just boxes.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was so fun without art. It was already fun. So that's how you knew.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of guys, we would stay like late night playing it, man, like testing it and stuff. And we're just like, it was great.
Yeah.
And so that was a great experience as well. And then from then, it was like when I got to work on the Nancy Drew comics under the tutelage of one of my Sifus, show over at Mavericks Studio. Those were great too, because I did a lot of my learning there as well, man. And then after that, I would say, I mean, all the projects at Zynga, as awful as they were, and that's not a shot at Zynga, it's just that they were very stressful projects.
Yeah.
Man. But, I gave it my all. And so that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now with Osmo, man, the Secret of the Dragons and the potions.
Yeah.
Those are some of my tops.
I think since, you and I share those experiences between Zynga and Osmo, and like, this is me not kissing ass of like where we're working right now or anything like that. But I'm just being genuinely honest, like from just the time that we've been working together with everybody else, like this has honestly been one of the teams that you can genuinely see the camaraderie and love between everybody. That like I saw that in a different projects at Zynga, but it was more of like the same thing. You had individuals that really cared, and then you had those that really just kind of went in there and just clocked in, clocked out. But here you can just see like genuine that everyone loves working with each other, and they really do respect everyone's opinion and like actually listens to everybody's like contributions, which I've never seen before, which is insane,
It's a rarity, man. Yeah. I mean, and like and just like you, I'm lucky, man. Like I've worked on plenty of teams and they're all great. Every team that I've been on I love, and so, but the projects I may not love.
Right.
And so that changes things drastically.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's one of where everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Everything is harmonious, man. Yes, the people and the project, and they're definitely a lot more open I'll tell you that much, than in other places.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creative freedom here that I haven't experienced in other places as much. Where they're like, oh yeah, because it's for kids.
Yeah.
That's what I love. It's like, that's one of the reasons why I want to get into children's educational stuff, is because, like, I know a kid, if you bore them, that's it. Your game is goodbye. It's not going to work.
They're gonna be your most honest critic no matter what. Yeah.
And I think when you're designing stuff for adults, it gets muddy because that's when marketing comes in, and an adult will, you ask them a few questions and they'll tell you something, but sometimes I don't think it's the honest answer. And so I don't know. But with a kid, they'll be like, "Ew, this dragon looks boring," and they'll walk away. Or worse, they'll say nothing, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. And I love it. I love that you have to wow a child with creativity, man. You can't fool them with nonsense. With something that's really pretty or rendered. It's like, no. It has to excite them in some way.
Yeah. You're not going to get kids that are going to get politicked where they're like, no, I like Mario more because, Mario's paying me in games or something.
Yeah, it's like something like Mario gave me a cool T-shirt. No, the kids, man. I'm always amazed. And what I love about also is when they ask the kids, like, and the kids, they come up with their own stories for these characters and stuff. And it's like, that's when you have something, right? When a piece of work, it inspires a child so that they start making their own stories to it. Yeah. That's when you're like, all right, got it.
Got him at that point.
Enjoy. Have at it, So, yeah.
That's awesome. Dude, I can't even believe that it's already been like an hour that you and I have been chatting. I feel like we can go on for like how you said, like five
until 5, dude.
Yeah. Well, we'll just break it up into YouTube parts like how we were talking about before.
For real.
Awesome. Well, yeah, dude, I definitely want to respect your time and thank you so much for joining us. Did you have any plugs that you wanted to give out or did you want to shout out any way for people to check out your artwork as well?
Well, actually, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't do this in the beginning, and I want to say hello to my mom.
Oh, nice.
And my dad. Oh, God, I blew it. I should have said that in the beginning, because I don't think they're going to stick to listen to me yap about cartoons, It's like, hey, mijo, I don't want to hear about cartoons. But Mom, Dad, if you stick around for the end, hi. I love you guys.
I'll put a timestamp just for them specifically.
Oh, thank you. That'd be amazing of you, dude. But no, I mean, like, one thing I wish my website is not updated. So it's like the best place to see anything that I'm posting recently is Instagram. I'm so like, I hate dealing with my like web page.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just like an afterthought too, where you're just like, I just want to put the art out.
Yeah. It's like, oh, thank God for Instagram. Yeah. But I do need to get it up because the quality is a lot better. I think if I can put it on. So yeah.
That's true.
But no, cool. Thank you for having me, man. This is great. Hopefully I didn't blow it.
Oh, like I'm pretty much going to edit like 95% of it.
Awesome.
This is going to be like a 5-minute like.
Yeah, this is CJ Cuzman. All right, good night.
It'll be like CJ. What do you want to plug at the end? That's it.
It's going to be saying hi to my mom. I'm okay with that.
Awesome. No, this has been hella fun, dude. And yeah, I'll definitely make sure to put like your Instagram and anything else that you want to plug in there in the description so people can check out your amazing work as well.
Man, thank you very much, dude.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll do it again sometime. And I would love to keep picking your brain on upcoming projects that you're working on and different like video games and movies that come out in the future. So yeah,
absolutely, my pleasure. Next time we'll be drunk.
Yeah, there you, dude. I should probably tell people that when I ask them if they want to do this, if like, all right, there's no limit, so you can get plastered if you want. So
just have some sort of a drinking contest. It'd be like, if you take too long to answer a question, take a shot.
Yeah. That's just going to delay it even more.
Yeah. Oh man, but I'm down anyway.
Awesome. All right, man. Thanks again, and have a good night, dude.
You too, brother. Take care, man.
Take care.
We hope you enjoyed the interview. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and take care.